I'm Scott Carr from CCLR, and I'm here with Mike Rick, ACP and CTE coordinator at Delavan Darien High School. We're going to spend some time today to talk about the great work that they're doing at Delavan Darien High School and their school district in relationship to career, community, and life readiness. So what's in store for us today?
Yeah, Scott, so we're going to walk around, check out some of our classrooms, and you can kind of see how we've implemented Portrait of a Graduate in our system, how kids are responding, how our teachers are responding, and most importantly, how we're reshaping our educational system here at Delavan.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Really looking forward to it, and can't wait to get started.
I'm excited.
I'm here with Mike Rick, the ACT and CTE coordinator at Delavan Darien, and I appreciate you taking some time. We're going to have a little conversation around Delavan Darien's work with career and community life readiness. So let's kind of go back and talk about the start. What moved you to want to go this direction?
Yeah, I think the conversation started a few years back when we were talking about kids having purpose, in their education, and really trying to, ground them in their future and starting thinking about life readiness. And how can we do that with such a focus on, standardized testing and achievement focus? How can we get them, thinking about their future? We had kids leaving here not really understanding where they were going to go in life. And so how could we make concepts here stick to their future and make it more, have them focus more on like life readiness skills? And I think the future of education is starting to shift this way, starting to
definitely
think more about what are just good traits and skills to have as an individual in society.
Yeah, I remember our conversation when we first met. What was it? Did you see one of our workshops online, right?
Yeah, sure did.
Yeah. Was it Portrait of a Graduate?
It was Portrait of Graduate work, and I remember going through the whole video series and trying to flag you down at the end, and I said, hey, we're doing some great stuff here at Delavan, and I really need your help on moving it to the next level. We had started DD Tech at the time. And I'm like, hey, we've kind of done this forward thinking of education, but how can we not create it in a silo? How can we bridge it out to our traditional education? How can we reshape our educational system to be more a little bit like DD Tech, where kids kind of get on this path and learn about their traits and their skill set, and how does that fit into a career path?
Yeah, I remember our conversation around DD Tech. I found it fascinating, the work that you guys were doing. So it kind of took off from there. We met, we were able to have conversation, and it was like, hey, how can we get this thing going, right? And then you are one of our first districts to even to kind of move this work forward with. So it's pretty exciting. And I remember having the conversation, and then we moved to, involving some others, right? So what was the, feelings of others as we remember when we met with them? Tell me a little bit about, how did, after our first meeting with our strategic team, right? What was the response out of those that went through that first couple days of training?
I remember telling them that I had met you on the conference call and had you come in and talk to me about starting this work. And I remember they were like, oh, just another initiative thing that we can start. And because the focus in education, initiative after initiative after initiative. And I was like, no, this is different. This is something I think will really benefit our kids and our community. And I remember we called them in and went through the training with them, and I would say by the end, at first they were like, oh, an all-day meeting, and by the end they were like, holy cow, this fits our community, this fits our students, this is what we need to move things forward. And they truly thought, going through that work with you, I think they ground themselves back, took themselves back to, I guess, why they got into education, what was the purpose of all of this, which I think the Portrait of a Graduate work really helps bring back to focus for teachers and educators. It was a great discussion, and I think they were all excited to kind of get this work started in our district.
That was our strategic team, right? There was some leaders involved in that. And then we move ourselves to the readiness team, where we did the same thing, right? We brought a group of people in. They were all educators. And then their responses, right?
Oh, yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah, I say starting with the strategic level, great to have obviously that strategic level, leadership level backing. But how does this impact teachers, right? And how are they going to carry it out in the classrooms? How are they going to help their colleagues? and help ground students in this work and see the importance of their education. And I'll tell you, the readiness team the work they have done has just been phenomenal. I mean, we brought them in and they saw the purpose of this from the start. And it was really inspiring for me because I thought, oh, I see it, how can I get others to see? Whereas is that? Well, it finds out they were all just waiting for, that moment to come in to change the educational system.
What do you think, what were you thinking the anticipation would be? Were you anticipating that type of response out of the educators?
I wasn't sure. I think, looking back, I'd say, how do you look at the work and not see, that it's purposeful, right? And it's going to be impactful to students. But I think with the traditional way of education, we've been doing the same thing for, quite a few years. Change is hard, and coming in, I think people were going to say, yeah, I see how this is important, but there's a lot of work to do here. And what I was surprised by both teams, the strategic team and the readiness team, was, yeah, there's a lot of work in front of us, but we're willing to do it because it's what's best for kids.
Yeah, I felt the same way when we met with the readiness team. Educators in a room, right, who've been really pretty much on pace with education as it's been over numerous years. And then when they saw something that could be different, wow, that excitement was really, really pretty cool, eh?
Yeah. Oh, it was like a snowball effect. Yeah. I mean, we introduced it to them, and they were like, "Oh, well, what about this? Well, can I try this?" And I think it took a lot of weight off their shoulders. I mean, they're so busy, I guess, teaching to a test. I'm not saying test has its place, but I think they were so burdened by that. Like, I have to teach to this. I have to teach this perfectly to fidelity. And I guess they were just like, I'm ready to have some fun in the classroom again. I'm ready for some flexibility in the classroom.
Yeah, really a rejuvenation, if you would, eh?
Yep, absolutely.
So what have you seen since then?
Oh, I've seen huge change, especially here at our high school, which is where we started the work. We're now starting to move down to the middle school, but just a connection to like career-connected learning in the classrooms. Staff full out have embraced this idea, and they've brought in more than ever before. We've had guest speakers, career panels, field trips, and connecting even in the core areas. So for so long it was tied into just like career and technical ed. But now our core teachers are jumping on and saying, hey, I can connect my core content to this. And I think what we're seeing is a lot more engagement and application in the classroom, which is fostering kids to think about the next level and achieving at a level that's relevant to them. And I think it's just been so powerful in the classroom. And we're just starting off with this work. This is kind of our first year in it. And we've really started to tie in a lot of these portrait of a graduate concepts into the classroom. And our readiness team, we were just talking about the readiness team, their work with staff. I think it's amazing. Like, that has become a leadership team in this building. And they are now teaching their colleagues and working with their colleagues on how to implement this work.
Yeah, that's great.
The collaboration is just, it's been amazing.
The way it should be, right? The way it should be in education.
And people are having fun.
Right. And it's wrapped around intentful, relevant work, not only for teachers, but for your students.
Yeah.
Right? So what do you think the biggest impact has been really on your students, with this work?
Yeah, I think they're seeing, they go into a core class, right? It's easy to see some of the connections in some of those CT classes, right? Business, tech ed, those kinds of things. But having them see the sense of application within a math class, it may not be a specific math problem or a specific history question or something like that, but how can they take pieces of that or the skills that they utilized while going through that math problem, how can they apply that to the next level? And I think they're starting to see that now, which is exciting.
Right. That's really, really amazing to hear where you're at, right, in the impact. And this is just in the first 2, 3, 4 months here of school.
Yeah.
Right? And just starting this work when did we start? Last March-ish?
Yep.
Yeah, it's great. So, I mean, to get started, right, what do you think some of the integral parts are to be able to see this move itself into the classroom? Wouldn't you agree the classroom is like the most important part where this work has to take off?
Absolutely.
So what do you think some of the integral pieces to see that actually happen?
Yeah, so I think having students have a piece of like the Portrait of a Graduate, right? So we, having them have a voice in what they want to see. So we actually put together a student communication team out of our readiness team. So we kind of divided them out. And one was, their focus was on students, and the other one was on the community. And what did the community want to see with this, and what do students want to see? And what was really interesting is we had about 30 to 40 students that our team worked with and asking questions like, hey, what is the purpose of education? Why are you here?
Right.
What's important to you? And we did the exact same with the community. What's the purpose? You know, why do you think it's important kids are in school? And what was amazing, those two groups came together and created our Portrait of a Graduate. And that's what outlined with our skills and attributes as displayed through the Portrait of a Graduate. And we took those, talked to our staff then. So I'd say the first one is obviously student involvement, right? Community for me would be number 2. And then last but not least is our educational system. So we took the input from those two teams and talked to our staff about it. And what was amazing, we talked to staff. Well, what's the purpose of education? What are things you like, don't like? And what was amazing is we took those two things, compared them side by side, and what we found was that staff, students, and the community all want the same thing.
Yeah.
They want the best thing for kids, which is giving them a sense of application engagement in the classroom that prepares them for the next level, no matter what career path they're choosing. And so it was really insightful, I think, for staff to see. Again, kind of took that weight off their shoulders, like, oh, okay, you know, students want to have fun in the classroom. I want to have fun in the classroom, but I want it to be engaging. They want it to be engaging. They want it to apply. We want it to apply.
Yeah.
So how can we make all this come together and make the classroom, I guess, more engaging, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, which is one of the problems we're seeing right now in education, right?
Yeah.
Our students are not engaged.
Absolutely.
Not engaged, and that's having a direct impact, right? A direct impact on our educators.
Yep.
We're seeing educators not want to come into the profession. We're seeing educators want to leave.
Yep.
And so here you are creating a culture, right, that is embracing just the direct opposite, right?
Yep.
Going back, so did you ever think that blueprint that we talked about, right? Remember how we mapped so much out on a dry erase board?
Oh yeah.
And that was a lot of fun, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So we map it out. Would you ever have thought this is where you're at, and you're only 4 months in?
Yeah, I cannot believe it's moved this fast. Thought it was going to take a lot more time, you know, for people to accept the change and kind of, you know, view this change. But I think everybody saw, like when we kicked off the beginning of the year with this work, and we did that comparison between students and staff and the community. I think everybody's like, oh, why are we not changing? Let's make this happen. Like, if this is what everybody wants, then why not do the work?
Right. Makes sense, right?
Right.
One of the big pieces to this work that I'm finding is, you know, what it is gets described at the beginning, right? Those priorities. But how it gets done really has to be done by your educators that are in the classrooms, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
And that's something that you guys have been able to really get done.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
They're leading the how to do it part. Talk a little bit about what that looks like.
Yeah, so I think traditionally, you know, we want to be told what to do, right? Here's how you teach in the classroom. Here's how the curriculum you'll follow and those kinds of things. And I think what's come out of that readiness team is exactly what you're just saying, is they're coming up with the ideas. I come in, help facilitate those discussions and kind of lead them different ways, but they come up with the result. They come up with, how are we going to do this? Which has been, I think, inspiring to not only them, but to their colleagues. Like, it's coming from teaching staff going to others teaching staff, right? They're teaching their peers, teaching their colleagues on how to implement this work. It's not a top-down approach.
Right. Yet, our priorities, right, strategic priorities, we came up with, right, as a strategic team.
Right.
Really kind of the non-negotiables, but they were at a level that were somewhat subjective that your teachers could run with it. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. I say we have our goals, you know, things that we wanted to accomplish, and we talked about those with the readiness team. Here's kind of where we want to end up. Now you find the way. Tell us how to get there. You guys are in the classroom. Your boots on the ground. You tell us how you think it would look in the classroom.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So what have been some of the challenges?
Yeah. So, you know, the tradition. We've been doing something